The story begins with the protagonist. After a painful incident in the past, second-year high school student Kazuaki Okabe swore he would never get the wrong idea again, devoting all of his free time to studying instead. Even during breaks and while traveling to school, he keeps focusing on his studies so he will not fail his exams. He is completely determined not to give in to any worldly desires. However, one of his classmates, Kiara Sano, keeps staring at him. Kazuaki becomes concerned that maybe she might be in love with him. He quickly controls himself, realizing that he is about to get the wrong idea once again, and immediately scolds himself for reading too deeply into such small things. Just as he is lost in thought, someone from beside him comments that the term has only just started, and he is already working hard, which looks really cool. The girl sitting next to him then comments that he still has no friends. Kazuaki replies that he simply decided to focus on studying during high school. Hearing that, the girl replies that it means she will have him all to herself again this year. The girl is Hina, a cheerful and popular student with a personality completely opposite to his. He does his best to stay calm, telling himself that extroverts always behave like this. However, Hina notices his blushing face and asks if he is okay. Kazuaki does not say anything and internally starts panicking about the situation, while she continues by mentioning how it is already their second year and they are once again sitting next to each other, which almost feels like fate. Kazuaki cannot understand why she keeps saying such flirtatious things to him. He tries to tell her not to say things like that because she is cute. Hina becomes confused by his strange response, but Kazuaki cannot explain that he might end up getting the wrong idea again. He quickly realizes how weird his comment sounds, so when Hina asks him to explain himself, he simply replies that he wants to study. Just then, another girl confidently walks toward him and stops in front of his desk. She leans slightly closer to him before placing a page on top of his book, saying that it contains her contact information. After that, she quietly walks away without saying anything else. Hina quickly asks whether he knows the girl or not, and Kazuaki replies that he does not really know her that well. Hina explains that the girl is Sano, a mysterious and hard-to-read student. She is extremely beautiful and has a nice figure, yet she still does not have many friends. Even so, Sano gives her contact information directly to Kazuaki, which must mean that she wants to become friends with him. Hearing Hina's comments once again gives Kazuaki hope that Sano might actually be in love with him. Still, he does his best to dismiss those thoughts, reasoning that Sano must simply have some other reason for doing that. Just then, another girl suddenly comes running toward him while loudly calling out his name. Kazuaki immediately recognizes her as Rui, his childhood friend who is 1 year younger than him. Rui seems extremely happy to see that they are attending the same school once again. Kazuaki notices Rui holding a large number of love letters on the very first day of school. He cannot believe that this is still a trend, but Rui simply replies that girls just like these kinds of things. Just then, a strong gust of wind suddenly rushes past them. The wind causes Rui to lose her balance for a moment, and several of the love letters fall into the nearby pool. Without hesitating, she quickly rushes over to grab them before they drift away. Kazuaki tries to warn her to be careful, but Rui simply replies that the people who wrote those letters did so while thinking about her, so she cannot just waste them like that. Kazuaki finds her really admirable and offers her his handkerchief. He even comments that she is still really cool. Rui playfully asks whether he is going to fall for her all over again before quickly changing the topic and saying that he is still the same kind person as always. Rui's compliment makes him blush slightly as he nervously thanks her. Just then, some other girls call out to Rui, causing her to quickly leave while waving goodbye to him. Before Kazuaki can even move away, Sano suddenly appears behind him and asks if they should head back together. When he does not immediately answer, she nervously asks if he does not want to go with her. Kazuaki feels a little hesitant about being seen together with her, but he still ends up walking home alongside Sano. While they are walking, he asks what exactly she wants from him. Sano simply replies that she just wants to walk home together with him. Kazuaki already starts worrying about her answer when she further adds that there is one more thing she wants, and that is permission to call him by his nickname. Her request leaves him extremely flustered, but he still gives her permission to use his nickname. Right after that, she suddenly asks for his contact information, which only makes him even more confused about the situation. Later that day, Kazuaki sits inside his house with an open book placed in front of him, but he seems completely distracted and unable to focus. Just then, an older girl suddenly appears behind him and points out that he is not concentrating on studying at all. The girl is Satori. She studies at a prestigious college Kazuaki hopes to attend someday. Satori also works as his tutor. Kazuaki explains that a lot of things happen during the day, which is why he feels a little unfocused. Hearing that, Satori tells him that they can simply end the lesson early since it is only the first day of the new term. However, Kazuaki refuses and insists that he wants to continue studying for a little longer. Satori smiles at his determination and playfully pats him on the head. The sudden physical contact makes him nervous once again, but he immediately reminds himself not to get the wrong idea. His determination to avoid misunderstandings exists because of an incident from his past. Back then, his older sister had a friend who used to visit their house very often. The girl is cheerful and always greets him with hugs whenever she comes over. Since he's only a teenage boy at the time, all of her affectionate behavior and sweet words are enough to completely mess with his head. Then, during his third year of middle school, right before his high school entrance exams, that same girl suddenly married another man out of nowhere. It becomes his first heartbreak because he always believed that the two of them shared the same feelings for each other. The incident affects him so badly that he fails to get into his first choice school. Back in the present, Satori also mentions how unfortunate it is that he becomes sick right before the exams. She has no idea about the truth behind his heartbreak, and Kazuaki has no intention of telling anyone about it. From the outside, he acts cold and composed, but deep down, he is simply an extremely self-conscious person who cannot stop thinking about romance. Wanting to get some help, Kazuaki asks Satori how exactly he can get rid of worldly desires. He comments about how serious she is towards studying and says that he wants to become more like her. Kazuaki genuinely wants to know if she has any hidden tips that allow her to stay so focused all the time. After hearing his question, Satori thinks for a moment, which makes him nervous that she might not want to share her secret. But she eventually explains that it is normal to have desires sometimes. Just then, Kazuaki gets distracted by a message on his phone. Sano texts him, saying they will get along well tomorrow. He briefly wonders if she might have feelings for him, but quickly stops himself and scolds his own overthinking again. At the same time, all three girls are alone in their rooms, each thinking about Kazuaki. They all notice that he reacts the same way to every girl he meets. Hina feels happy remembering him calling her cute. Confident in her looks and their seat together in class, she starts believing she might be his number one. Rui remembers him once saying he likes cool people, so she tries hard to become cooler. Since they are childhood friends, she believes she is the closest to him. Satori, however, thinks he prefers mature and intelligent girls because he often praises those traits. Being childhood friends as well, she becomes worried and unsure about where she stands. Out of all the girls, Sano is the only one who remains completely calm during the situation. Rather than rushing things, she quietly decides that she will carefully play her cards one step at a time. Hina Nishina is Kazuaki's seatmate, and she is also the only one who regularly talks to him. Besides that, she is cheerful, cute, and kind, which is exactly why she feels confident that he is bound to eventually fall in love with her. These are the thoughts running through Hina's mind as she remains convinced that she is the number one girl closest to him. Until yesterday, she could only think about things like that. However, even with someone like her sitting right beside him every day, Kazuaki would naturally get flustered if a beautiful girl like Sano suddenly started talking to him, since he is not used to dealing with so many girls at once. Hina tells herself that she does not really care about it, but the moment she enters the classroom, she immediately notices Sano greeting Kazuaki with a bright smile. She suddenly stops walking when she sees Sano already sitting beside him. Sano politely wishes her good morning as well. However, Hina feels annoyed internally seeing them acting so close early in the morning. She casually comments that the two of them seem to have gotten pretty close overnight. Kazuaki quickly explains that they are not actually close and that he is simply being observed. Hearing that, Sano immediately apologizes for bothering him. Kazuaki awkwardly replies that he is not really bothered and is simply curious about why she keeps coming to him. Instead of properly answering his question, Sano simply smiles and says that she will talk to him later. Hina cannot help but notice how beautiful Sano really is, and she realizes that if Kazuaki keeps sitting this close to her every day, he might genuinely start developing feelings for her sooner or later. Even so, Hina hides her frustration and simply comments that it is good for him to finally make a friend. Slightly annoyed by that statement, Kazuaki replies that he only comes to school to study and has no intention of making friends there. Hina realizes once again just how seriously he takes studying. Meanwhile, Kazuaki continues explaining that Sano is the one who has been hanging around him since yesterday. Then, in a nervous tone, he asks Hina whether she thinks Sano might actually like him. The question instantly makes Hina nervous as well. Even yesterday, he was calling her cute and acting flustered around her, so hearing him think so seriously about another girl leaves her feeling unsettled. In her mind, she believes she should still be the one occupying his thoughts the most. However, once again, she hides her true feelings and calmly replies that if Sano acts that straightforwardly around anyone, they would naturally start getting the wrong idea. She further adds that Sano is simply hard to understand, but since she never openly confesses anything, it probably just means that Kazuaki is overthinking the entire situation. Her reasoning seems to genuinely reassure Kazuaki, and he immediately comments that this must be the real explanation. He even thanks Hina, saying that it feels nice being able to talk to her about things like this because she is the only person he can comfortably share these thoughts with. Hearing that she is his only confidant makes Hina smile brightly. She happily offers to listen to him anytime he wants to talk about something, especially about the kind of girl he likes. Kazuaki quickly denies liking anyone at all. In response, she simply laughs while carefully analyzing his reaction. After observing him closely, she concludes that he probably is not in love with Sano after all. Since she has known him for much longer than Sano has, Hina becomes convinced once again that she is still the girl closest to his heart. After class ends, Hina notices the two of them talking together once again. Even one of their classmates comments on how rare it is to see Kazuaki casually chatting with someone like this. This time, however, Hina does not feel nearly as bothered by the sight anymore. One of Hina's friends suddenly comments that she must be really close with Kazuaki since they sit next to each other and always seem to have fun whenever they talk. The friend even points out that although Hina can talk to anyone she wants, it almost looks like Kazuaki genuinely likes her. Hina quickly denies it, but deep down, she feels extremely happy hearing something like that. Throughout the entire day, she feels satisfied knowing that even the people around them notice how she seems to be the person closest to Kazuaki. Once school ends, Hina steps outside the building and is surprised to suddenly spot Kazuaki nearby. He waves toward her to get her attention. However, the moment she notices him standing very close to Rui, her expression slightly changes. Even though she does not recognize the girl at all, she can immediately tell how beautiful she is. Rui also becomes curious about Hina, so Kazuaki finally introduces the two of them to each other, while mentioning that Rui is his childhood friend. Stepping forward politely, Rui asks Hina whether Kazuaki is getting along properly with everyone in class. She adds that she worries about him because back in elementary school, he spent almost all of his time alone. Watching the two of them interact so naturally makes Hina feel uncomfortable deep inside, but she still keeps a smile on her face the entire time. She politely tells them to enjoy themselves before saying that she will see them again tomorrow. After walking away from them, Hina cannot stop herself from thinking about the situation. First, there is Sano, and now there is another girl who is also extremely close to Kazuaki. This time, the girl is even his childhood friend. Meanwhile, Hina herself shares the same classroom with him for over a year and only talks with him slightly more than the rest of their classmates. All this time, she always believed that Kazuaki barely interacts with girls and that she is his only real female friend. Lost in those thoughts, she continues walking when suddenly someone calls out her name from behind. She turns around in surprise and sees Kazuaki standing there. Kazuaki then invites her to study together with him on Saturday. He adds that he could have simply brought it up tomorrow at school, but since they happen to meet like this, he decides to mention it now instead. Although Hina becomes curious about why he suddenly brings it up, she still agrees to the study session. At the same time, she nervously wonders whether she might only end up disturbing his studies. Kazuaki quickly assures her that he genuinely wants her help. Hearing that immediately causes Hina's hopes to rise once again, as she starts wondering if he might actually have feelings for her after all. This time, he seems to be acting much more straightforward toward her. In a playful tone, she comments that it feels exactly like him to invite her to a study session instead of asking her out on a proper date. The moment he becomes visibly flustered by her teasing, she simply laughs and tells him to calm down while saying that she is already looking forward to spending time together with him. At school, all the girls are once again praising how cool Rui looks. They even talk about how she used to do modeling and was the ace of the volleyball club in middle school. Hearing all these compliments about her, Rui feels really good knowing that people genuinely see her as cool. This reminds her of her childhood, when she once asked whether having a cool image is a good thing. Kazuaki replies that he likes cool things. From that moment, young Rui concludes that if he likes cool things, it also means he likes her as well. Because of that memory, Rui becomes increasingly hopeful that Kazuaki might actually have real feelings for her. The next morning, when she arrives at school, she bumps into Kazuaki and greets him with a bright and beautiful smile. The other girls become curious seeing her interact so casually with him, and Rui calmly says that he is her childhood friend. She feels confident that this fact alone already sets her apart from everyone else. In her mind, Rui is sure that things are going to change in her favor. If someone like her has become even more popular and cooler than before, then it would naturally be a shock for him as well. She also reassures herself that there is nothing to be anxious about because they have shared a special bond since childhood, and it is almost fate that they will end up together. However, her pleasant thoughts are interrupted when she notices Kazuaki talking to Hina. She immediately recognizes her as the same girl from a few days ago, which makes her curious about who she is and what kind of relationship she has with Kazuaki. Kazuaki had previously told her that Hina is only a classmate, but Rui can clearly sense that the girl might have feelings for him. This realization strengthens Rui's determination to make sure she does not lose her position. Later, when she finds Kazuaki alone, she suddenly pushes him against a wall and demands to know who the girl he was talking to earlier is. More specifically, she wants to confirm whether that girl is his number one. Kazuaki calmly replies that Hina is only a classmate. Rui wants reassurance that he is telling the truth, but he immediately points out that she is standing too close to him. Startled, she quickly steps back and instantly becomes worried that she might have gone too far and acted too desperately. She is surprised when Kazuaki tells her that she was actually really amazing, because there are only a few people who can confidently push someone against a wall like that. He adds that she does it so easily, and combined with her looks, she really seems cool. Once again, Rui becomes certain that he must like her since his thoughts still feel the same as before. Feeling genuinely happy, she says that it seems like he is getting along well with his classmates. Even though there are more girls around him now, she tells herself that this is expected since he is in high school. Still, she is completely sure that he is the coolest person she knows, and since he likes cool girls, there is nothing for her to worry about. Finally feeling relieved, she says that she will leave now. Kazuaki suddenly stops her for a moment and tells her that he is planning a study session at his place and wants her to join him. Rui instantly agrees, saying that they have not studied together since elementary school. At this point, Rui feels extremely content. She firmly believes that even though he is getting closer to other girls, his childhood friend will always remain his number one. Later, Rui goes with Kazuaki to his house. Kazuaki feels a bit worried that Rui might not be comfortable being there since she does not know his home well, but Hina seems surprisingly calm and even happy. Kazuaki then complains that it was not easy to invite guests over to his house, even if it is just for a study session, and says that they should have done it separately instead. He does not really understand why things have ended up like this. Sano simply replies that it is because it is him, and there is no real reason to question it. Her answer confuses him, but he also realizes that he cannot refuse whenever she asks him to do something like this. At that moment, he also realizes that he never clearly told Rui that the study session was originally Sano's idea, and at this point all the girls involved still have no idea what is about to happen next. However, since it is the first time they are meeting outside of school and going to his house, the situation feels slightly unusual to Hina. She did not expect this kind of arrangement from him, and she starts thinking that she should stay composed and not read too much into it. Still, she decides to dress neatly, determined to act normally no matter what happens. Later, she waits at the designated meeting spot when Kazuaki finally appears. She turns around excitedly to greet him, but stops mid-sentence when she notices Sano standing right beside him. She already had a feeling something like this might happen. She was almost certain that Sano would show up, because there was no way Kazuaki would simply spend time alone with her. Still, he could have at least warned her beforehand. At the same time, she also feels that it is partly her fault for not asking clearly. However, if all three of them are going together, then acting upset would only make her look suspicious, as if she is the only one taking this too seriously. So she forces herself to keep a neutral expression. Sano politely compliments her outfit, and Hina responds by saying that Sano also looks cute, while noticing that Kazuaki is still wearing his school uniform. With a gentle smile, Sano asks if Hina is nervous about going to a boy's house like this. Hina quickly replies that she is actually pretty used to it, even though she is clearly hiding the fact that this is her first time. Sano finds her response impressive, but internally, Hina is not happy that she had to lie. Soon after, all of them reach Kazuaki's house. When they enter, Hina is shocked to see that Rui is already waiting there. Turning toward them, Rui complains that they took a long time and says that it was kind of mean to leave her alone while going to pick up the others. Kazuaki apologizes, while Rui continues that she was feeling really lonely by herself earlier. She had arrived at his house feeling nostalgic since it had been a long time, and she was actually very happy thinking it would just be the two of them. However, Kazuaki had left, saying he would go get the others, leaving her waiting for more than 10 minutes, which made her annoyed. Kazuaki explains that since she has already been to his house many times before, he assumed she would be fine waiting alone. The fact that Rui has been to his house multiple times shocks Hina, Kazuaki once again clarifies that Rui is his childhood friend. Hearing this, Rui feels calm and happy again, noticing that Kazuaki always ends up treating her a little specially because of their childhood connection. All of their thoughts are interrupted when Kazuaki sits down with a book and says that they should start studying. Hina feels the atmosphere is awkward, but just then Sano brings out a bag of snacks and opens it, asking everyone what they would like. Looking at the snacks, Kazuaki simply says that he wants to focus on studying and tells the three of them that they can go ahead and enjoy them if they want. Hina hesitantly offers to feed Kazuaki while he is studying. The simple suggestion instantly makes both Hina and Rui feel extremely conscious of the situation. At the same time, Kazuaki starts blushing heavily, clearly flustered by the sudden attention. What annoys both girls even more is that he actually looks somewhat happy about it, which makes them both glare at him in silent frustration. Rui is the first one to recover, quickly asking if she can also join in. Hina, unable to bear the image of Kazuaki being surrounded and sandwiched by two girls, struggles to even look at the scene in front of her. Even though she keeps reminding herself that she is not in love with him, she forces a bright smile and casually says that, since Kazuaki does not want any, they should just give the snacks to her instead. Sano calmly agrees and starts feeding both Hina and Rui instead. Both of them quietly eat, trying to act normal. Rui comments that it actually feels nice when someone feeds you like this, although she is slightly disappointed that she could not do it herself. Hina also worries that she might end up looking a bit childish, but at the same time both of them feel relieved that the situation is no longer awkward. However, the peaceful atmosphere lasts only for a couple of seconds. Kazuaki leans forward to pick up his eraser, and at that exact moment, Sano leans slightly toward Hina and quietly comments on her outfit, making Hina suddenly flustered and defensive. Kazuaki quickly apologizes, insisting it was an accident. Hina, still embarrassed, accepts his apology and tries to brush it off. The situation is suddenly interrupted when the door unexpectedly opens. Satori walks in and freezes on the spot, clearly shocked to see all of them sitting together inside Kazuaki's house. Somewhere in a college lecture hall, a group of students discusses how they will never go to karaoke after this. Satori sits quietly, observing the students who are planning to go out. Hearing their plan, she immediately becomes certain that something improper is about to take place. This annoys her greatly, as she believes they are not here to waste their youth like this. College is not cheap, and their parents would surely feel disappointed if they saw them behaving this way. She further thinks that these students are violating public order and morals by doing such things. It is truly shameful, in her eyes, that they lack even basic public decency. However, this thought reminds her of her own situation. She is also about to have a one-on-one study session with Kazuki, and not just any boy, but a high school student who is seemingly very attached to her. Since they are going to be alone in his room, something is surely bound to happen. She already starts feeling strangely excited thinking about it. Just then, it is time for her to turn around and meet the young boy. When she looks back, she greets him excitedly, but quickly stops when she notices him sitting there with three other girls. Kazuaki then introduces Satori to everyone, explaining that she is also his tutor. He proceeds to introduce Hina, Sano, and Rui to her one by one. He apologizes for asking her to come here and explains that he called her because he wanted help guiding everyone with their studies. Satori becomes visibly annoyed, realizing she came here expecting to help only him study, not to walk into what looks like a complicated group situation. She internally decides that she does not want to get involved in any immoral relationships. At that moment, Sano thanks her politely with a bright smile, leaving Satori unable to respond properly. As everyone settles around the study table, Rui comments that she had no idea a college student was helping Kazuaki with his studies, while Hina adds that Satori is really beautiful and has a great figure, praising her openly. Satori awkwardly thanks them and tells everyone that they should begin studying. Since childhood, Kazuaki has been the only boy who truly acknowledges Satori's presence and respects her properly. He always addresses her politely and looks at her with admiration, which led her to believe that he must have been deeply in love with her. Secretly, she hoped that once he graduated, she could support him more personally. Now, however, she cannot understand why he is surrounded by so many girls. She always thought he was a loner. This makes her worry that already become close to one of these three girls, and she also becomes curious whether the message he received the other day came from one of them. Looking at all three girls, she tries to figure out which one is closest to him. All of them are cute, popular, and attractive. There might already be some complicated relationship dynamics between them. She becomes slightly desperate to know the truth, and while thinking about it, she absent-mindedly slams the table and shifts around, confusing everyone present. She is then interrupted when Sano asks about something she does not understand. This gives Satori a sudden spark of hope, as she thinks that while these girls are cute, she still does not know how intelligent they are. However, this thought also makes her self-conscious again, as she wonders if intelligence should also be reflected in appearance, and whether being smart is ultimately meaningless if it is not visible. Feeling increasingly disheartened, tears begin to well up in her eyes as she starts thinking that Kazuaki might not actually be interested in her at all. As Satori rubs at her eyes, Kazuaki asks if she is crying. Satori quickly covers it up, claiming that her contact lens is slightly out of place. Internally criticizing herself, she asks which part they need help with. Sano replies that she does not understand everything. Hina also agrees, explaining that although she brought all her workbooks to the study session, since their classes have just started, she has no idea which part they are supposed to focus on. Hearing their concerns, Satori regains her determination. She distributes the workbooks to everyone and instructs them to focus only on the page she has selected. She adds that if they do not understand something, they can simply skip it for now and ask her later. As the three girls begin going through the page, Satori looks at Kazuaki with a disappointed expression, thinking that all of these girls seem quite unintelligent. Earlier, she had believed that Kazuaki might be interested in smart girls, but now she feels let down that he has brought such dumb girls to his house. At that moment, Kazuaki thanks her, saying it is his first time hosting a study session and he was not sure how to handle it, so he is relieved that she is there to help. Hearing this, the girls comment that since it is his first time organizing something like this, it makes sense that he was unable to properly explain what they would be doing. Satori listens to their conversation in silence, while internally thinking that she will never be disappointed in Kazuaki himself. This thought reminds her again that Kazuaki genuinely likes studying and that he is not some kind of womanizer. Reassured by this, Satori regains her motivation and begins to guide them more strictly. She starts teaching them seriously, even declaring that no one is allowed to leave until they fully understand everything. The next day at school, Hina praises how good Satori is at teaching, saying she made everything very easy to understand. Kazuaki quickly agrees, while Sano suggests that they should plan another study session sometime soon. Hina then playfully asks if they could hold it at her place next time. Outwardly, Hina keeps a bright smile, but inside she cannot stop noticing that ever since Sano started talking to Kazuaki, she has been spending almost all her time with him and following him around. Previously, Hina believed she was the only girl who regularly talked with Kazuaki at school, but after the study session, it feels like Sano and Kazuaki have grown even closer. Even though Hina has plenty of friends at school, she truly values the small conversations she shares with him between classes. Because of that, she cannot believe she might be the only one who feels this way. Still, she does not actually dislike Sano because deep down, she knows Sano is genuinely a good girl. While Hina is lost in those thoughts, she suddenly notices Kazuaki stepping out of the classroom. Before she can approach him, however, Sano immediately appears beside him and casually calls him by his first name. Hina's friends are shocked to see them already on a first-name basis, and they quickly start asking whether the two of them are dating. Just hearing that possibility instantly makes Hina nervous. At the same time, she also wants to spend some time alone with Kazuaki someday. Because of that, during the next class, she quietly asks him if he has any free time before the next lesson begins. The moment the bell rings, Hina wastes no time and immediately grabs his arm before dragging him toward an empty classroom. After arriving there, Kazuaki asks what is going on, and Hina suddenly realizes that she acts too impulsively. Trying to maintain her cheerful attitude, she quickly explains that this classroom is usually empty and that she sometimes comes there alone to eat lunch, so she wanted to show him the spot. Even though she drags him there in a rush, she actually has no idea what she is supposed to say next. Deciding to stick to her playful personality, Hina teasingly asks whether he has started dating Sano already, while promising that she will not tell anyone. However, deep down, she already feels hurt just imagining what she would do if he actually admits they are dating. Before the conversation can continue, Hina suddenly notices Sano's shadow appearing through the classroom door window. Without thinking twice, she immediately grabs Kazuaki's hand again, determined to protect the little bit of alone time she finally has with him. When Sano enters the classroom, she looks around in confusion after seeing that the room is empty, wondering if she only imagined seeing them there. Meanwhile, Hina drags Kazuaki into a nearby storage cupboard, and the two end up very close in the cramped space. Once again, she acts without thinking things through, but now she becomes completely flustered by how close they are. The tight space leaves them in very close proximity, and even small movements make the situation more awkward. Earlier, she only wanted to spend some time alone with him, but she never imagined things would escalate like this. At the same time, she also notices that Kazuaki's heart is beating incredibly fast. Eventually, after Sano finally leaves the classroom, the two of them hurriedly stumble out of the cupboard. Hina is practically trembling from nervousness, but she still forces herself to keep her voice steady as she apologizes to him. She explains that lately they have not really been able to talk much anymore, which is why she dragged him there in the first place, because she simply wants to spend some time chatting with him alone. After saying that, she nervously asks whether he is still feeling anxious from what just happened. Kazuaki can only blush heavily at her words. Later, the two of them sit back inside the classroom with their faces completely red while awkwardly facing away from each other. Seeing how strangely both of them are acting, Sano curiously asks whether something happened between them, but the two of them instantly deny it at the exact same time.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.